Hey folks, so when you land into Passionfruit Labs and you've already set up your instance, this is what your dashboard looks like. On the top, you have some key metrics like your share of voice, average sentiment, unique citations, industry rank. In this scenario, we're analyzing Zara.com. As you can see, you see your trend analysis of your visibility share over time. If you're doing things right, this should be moving upwards. On the right, you have your industry ranking in terms of who are you competing with, what's their share of voice compared to yours. Over here, if you've linked your Google Analytics data, you can also track the traffic, revenue, etc. you're driving across ChatGPT and other brands. Don't worry, Zara is driving a lot more revenue than this. This is just proxy data. Below that, you can see what top queries you're being mentioned in, top queries by citations. This means what are the queries your website is being used to answer the question for. And then in general, as a whole, what are the top cited pages? What are generally the pages that are being used across all the prompts we're analyzing here that are being cited, and then top cited domains. Below that, you can also get a quick overview of some conversations you were recently mentioned in along with their date. Today I'm recording this so you can see the most recent conversations by channel that I've been featured in. The little numbers here are the sentiment of the response that I was mentioned in. You can dive deeper into any of these sections by just hitting show all. However, if you want to dive deeper into any section on the left, you can also just hit share of voice. In this section, you can dive deeper into what is your industry rank, C2 views, bar view and line view, and you can split your share of voice by platform, by topic, or even by the different prompts you're currently analyzing. Here you can also change the date ranges. In the recent mentions, you can select any brand you want to dive into, and then for any of the mentions they've been mentioned in, you can view the whole context for what the response was and what were the top brands that were mentioned there. Similarly, you can dive into sources, brand mentions in a similar format and dive into different analyses here. Brand mentions is interesting because you can actually dive deeper into each individual brand. So obviously this is a larger, deeper dive of Zara.com. But for example, Zara is interested in competing with H&M. They can dive into H&M's visibility report and act like they're H&M themselves, see the share of voice, average sentiment. How is their share of voice trending over time? What's their average sentiment? How is that broken down by different platforms? And what were their recent mentions? And view each of them. In each of these mentions, we give a proxy rank in the order in which it was mentioned, as well as the sentiment analysis behind this. One of my favorite features here is competitor benchmarking. I can feed in my competitors, see exactly what are the top queries they are being mentioned in when I'm not, including the frequency of those mentions, and then also dive into generally what are the queries I'm not being mentioned in along with the competitors that are being mentioned in those queries. Largely, you can get a larger view of the full competitive landscape you're competing against, seeing where you currently stand in terms of share of voice and average sentiment and all the other different brands that are competing in the larger query universe you're tracking here. Very, very interesting. In another way, you can also break down this data based on query. You can see the different queries. What's your share of voice in this overall query with your average sentiment, and then see the different brands ranking for it, top cited domains, and the platforms this is being tracked in. To dive deeper into traffic, you can see your traffic data broken down by channels, the sessions, etc., and deep dive into it. You can choose the date ranges you want to focus on, as well as compare your traffic over time by just hitting this compare feature. One important section here is content strategy. Based on areas that you are currently lacking, we basically recommend clear content pieces you should write, what the description of that content piece is and why we've chosen that piece for you, along with the prioritization. You can either choose to these pieces yourself and mark them as done, delete if you've already written them, or you can assign them to us to implement them for you. If you want to add more prompts and manage your prompts, you can go into this prompt section, choose any prompt, switch it on or off, or even add more prompts very simply by generating prompts. You can also add more competitors or remove competitors, and then you can even integrate your Google Analytics here.